Hey, welcome to the Travel Agency New Year podcast. My name is Rachel Kay, your host, helping travel advisors become the CEO of their business. I am also a travel advisor. Don't worry, one of these days I'm going to nail this intro. If you would like more information on different courses or ways I can help you grow your travel business, head on over to elevatewithrachelk.com. Otherwise, just continue listening and supporting this little baby podcast. Today is day 39. Why do you even need to track any of your communications as a travel advisor? Which hopefully you are doing. But so we've been talking about why TAs need email templates and everything regarding client communication and the importance of consistency with client communication. And it's also really important for you to have records of all said communication. And I know you're probably like, no, I don't want to keep all this stuff in my inbox. I will tell you, I'm fairly minimalist, simple with my day-to-day life, but I forward every email, every document that's ever signed, everything. I keep a record of it for several years on the off chance I need to reference it in the future. So we're going to talk about four different reasons why you should track your communications, and then one tip just in case you decide to track a specific type of communication or communication channel. You need to be careful with one specific type of communication channel. All right. Reason number one, cover your ass. CYA. You will be able to show if there's any chance of a chargeback or a complaint or anything like that. You will be able to show this was all here. I cannot tell you the number of wedding guests I have served who seem to think that I didn't keep records of everything. I remember one, she tried to say she never got any emails from me for the wedding. And I said, okay, let's verify your email address, type it out. And she was like in the room with the groom on the phone. And she was like, you don't ever send me an email. I don't receive anything. Da 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 da. And I was like, okay, please spell out your email exactly, because I was like, the only thing I can think of is we never got the right email in the first place. And she gave it to me. And I said, have you been hacked? And she said, what are you talking about? And I said, that's the email address I have on file. And not only is that the exact email address I've been sending communications to, but someone using this email address has opened every single email. And not only that, but also clicked on links in said email. So you might want to change your password, because if you aren't getting any of the emails, someone's hacked your email, going only into my travel agency emails being sent to you, reading them, clicking on links, and then deleting them. So it will happen once you start to have a specific volume of business. If you're starting out and you just have like some one-off people, like people you kind of know that are referred through friends or family, or they are friends and family, you're probably not going to run into this issue, but you will run into people who think that you don't know how to run a business. Especially if you start doing like specifically like wedding groups, larger groups. But it is a CYA in that regard. So that's one example. Example number two, I had a wedding travel just a few months ago, I believe. And the person, one of the wedding guests, had me on the phone while they checked into the resort for 4 hours. This is just story time. This is why you need to have all the communications. And they had emailed me, probably a little over a year prior. And they're like, do they have a sushi place here? And I was like, yeah, they do. That was it. That was all that was discussed. And then about 2 months prior to travel, they were like, here's all the dinner reservations I'm requesting. Now, on the couple's wedding site, I put, reservations cannot be made in advance. I had already sent them emails, I think, or in that process, that you can't make reservations in advance at this place. Okay. Start off with that. But he also had requests for like restaurants that I knew for a fact were never open for dinner. And I replied to the email and I said, I can see about possibly getting the day you check in taken care of for you. I don't know how lucky I'll be with that. As for the rest of this, you are on your own because I don't know what restaurants are going to be open each day of the week because, resorts have certain restaurants are just closed down random nights of the week. So I had all this in writing, right? He checks in like 2 months later. He calls me on the phone and has me on speaker for hours. Chief concierge is talking to him. He's demanding the President Trump suite. Like, I remember those words coming out of his mouth. And he had printed off his email that he sent me with the dining reservation requests and told the resort that I told him those were taken care of and that I effed up the entire trip, by the way. Like, this man is near retirement, and it was like a 4-year-old nightmare. So then the upper management emails me and they show me the picture. They took a picture of this quote unquote confirmation he received from me for these imaginary reservations. And they're like, why are you telling him that you did this? And I do quite a bit of volume of business with this particular brand. And they didn't know that I was the travel agent for the group either. And so he was like, don't you know who she is? Blah, 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 blah. And they're like, no, this is through a wholesaler, like, anyway. So I had to reply and be like, please see this email. I just screenshot the email thread instead of sending the entire thread from this client. And I was like, I clearly stated here months ago, I will do my best to see if I can get something day of. I don't know if I'm going to have any success with that. All other reservations are made at the property. And so they're like, thank God. But that's another reason why you want to keep everything. Thirdly, you want to keep copies of every invoice signed, any terms of service that your client signed. You should have your own terms of service, like agreements, like your terms and conditions for working with you. It's very important to get that. Also, because then you can outline specifically what you are liable for and what you are not liable for. Okay. But you also need to have very good record keeping services of people signing off on those things, people authorizing payments, people signing off on the invoice to the terms and conditions for payment and what is refundable and what is non-refundable. And this is why I like to put everything in email as well, because I'm not going to go search through text messages for something. Because let's see, this was probably 3 or 4 years ago. I had a wedding guest who had CFAR, a travel insurance, and they needed to cancel due to medical reasons. And I said, okay, well, let me fill out this cancellation form that you agree to the cancellation terms and conditions. You're in a room block, so it's non-refundable now. And here's your travel insurance information again. You have to go file the claim. And I said, I think you should talk to a representative on what would be better, CFAR with 75% refunded or medical, like doctor's note reason. And then she's like, okay, well then 3 weeks after travel, the company I set up the room block with emails me and they're like, this guest issued a chargeback. They never traveled. And I was like, oh, here's all this information. And they're like, great, chargeback was denied. If that chargeback went through because I didn't keep any of that communication and I didn't require anything to be in writing, I was just like, oh, okay. If she just texted me that, I was like, no big deal. I would have been liable for that chargeback, which was like $3,000 to $4,000. I'm not about that life. That's probably the most important reason. Don't worry, this episode won't be super long. I just want you to hear these stories because these are things that can happen to you and it most likely will happen to you and it's nothing to be afraid of and you're not bad at your job. Don't misunderstand. I'm just telling you my personal experiences with people trying to get away with things, assuming that I don't keep receipts for everything because I keep receipts for everything. All right. Second point. If you have like a newsletter that you send out, it's important to track that because there could be an issue with your DNS settings. You could discover that too many people marked your email as spam for some reason, or servers are blocking you from communicating properly, which if it's tied to your travel CRM, that could be a hindrance when it comes to getting those invoices signed and getting those like payment reminder emails out to them. But it could be a simple DNS setting inside your like newsletter CRM, not specifically like travel CRMs. They don't integrate with your URL or your domain so much. So it's not that big of a deal, but you never know. 3, you don't lose information. I'm not a hoarder. I have things. I don't have too many things. I'm not super minimalist. However, I do hoard my emails, and it's really embarrassing sometimes when I do like a screen record and I have like an email open and I'm like explaining something to like a wedding couple. And at the top, it's like, you have 12,000 emails. So, and I'm like, I hope they don't see that in the corner. Okay. But you don't lose information. I do have some things with labels that go in specific folders, and then other things I'm just like, I'm going to search in the search bar. My inbox is chaos. Inbox zero is not my style. I do get every email opened, deleted, whatever. However, I just search for everything in my inbox for the most part. And then I can usually find the thread. Okay. If you are also tracking communications via surveys, like post-trip surveys, feedback like that, you're going to notice recurring complaints and then you can take stock of that. There's no such thing as failure, only feedback. And if you continue to hear, I don't like some people are like, oh, you send too many emails. And some people are like, this isn't enough information. And finding that balance, you just got to do it your way. But that could be something you could take note of and maybe implement a change in your communication or your services, either the following month or on a quarterly basis, or if it's not like imperative that it gets done, maybe on an annual review, like make something easier for them. Because sometimes I'll get, oh, this was really good information. It was hard to fully digest easily. So that's when I started moving to screen recording everything and explaining everything via video. That helps them with any kind of time crunches for room block proposals, things like that, signing room block contracts, ceremony contracts. So those are 4 big reasons why you should be tracking your communication. Now, I know I've talked about what is your primary channel for communication, and some people like to do text, some people prefer phone, some people prefer email. I'm an email girly. It's so nice for me. And if you do phone, you might be thinking, oh, I need to record my phone calls. Be very careful with recording phone calls. In the state that I reside in, you don't have to disclose a phone call is being recorded. So it can be recorded. It's fine. As long as the person on the other line also resides in that state or a similar state with that same law. But there are many states where you have to ask for permission every single time. And there are states where you can get permission once and then you're good with that person. It kind of varies. I only know about the weird one time thing because I was recording a call with someone I had calls regularly. And I was like, as long as you consent, it's fine. But be very, very careful if you decide to do call recording, is what I'm saying for tracking. There are apps out there that will record calls and produce a full transcript of the call that is time stamped and send it off to wherever you want it to be sent. So that way you also have a transcript. I don't record any of my client calls. I don't know if I would ever record my client calls. I know a lot of wedding coordinators, when we do like Zoom meetings together for planning, they typically have that call recorded. So everyone's doing it for CYA. And that's another reason why if you do groups, weddings, or like special concierge services with specific properties or anything like that that involves someone helping to arrange a large number of people, they almost always want everything via email. And if it's not done via email, say it's done via phone, they will summarize it and send it via email in the same thread. All right. Whew. So think about that. You're like, wait a second. I don't want these troublemaker people. It unfortunately happens, especially if you do any type of group travel that's not like a mice group. You probably are only dealing with one person. So you're not going to have a bunch of people pretending that they're not getting emails. But I've noticed it doesn't matter how long you've been doing weddings, how many weddings you've done. You never know what guest is just going to try and lie. So they could be the nicest people ever, but then they might lie. So keep track of everything. And it's also good for you because you're going to be more careful about not just spewing off empty promises, because you're going to think about this like, if this were to somehow become an issue or a complaint, would this prove them or would this prove me? You know what I mean? Like, would this protect me or would this like expose that, oopsie, I did do this and am I at fault? Because who knows who on the other end is keeping communications as well. All right. This was kind of a scary episode. Please don't be scared. It's fine. If you like this episode, please subscribe, come back tomorrow, share with a travel advisor you know that might find this podcast to be helpful. You can always subscribe. Majority of our listeners are not subscribers yet. So have a great day.